Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're diving headfirst into firearms,
Oh, cool.
specifically the SIG-MCX. It's making waves, you know, in military and law enforcement.
Right.
And to be honest with you, my knowledge on firearms is pretty limited. I'm a lot more comfortable with like a history book than a rifle.
Yeah, I get that.
But
Yep.
that's what the deep dive's all about, right?
Exactly.
We're going to use Wikipedia as our guide today. And luckily, I've got an expert on hand to walk us through all this. Welcome to the show.
Glad to be here.
Firearms can be a complex subject, but hopefully we can break this down, make it understandable, interesting for everybody.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so to start off, the SIG-MCX, what makes it stand out? You know, in this world of firearms, there's so many...
Well, it's a combination of things. I think the MCX, it's got a lot of features that people have really liked, professionals, enthusiasts, but
Yeah.
I think it's the modularity that really sets it apart. Like you can change calibers, you can change barrel lengths, you can change basically anything on it. It's designed to be modified quickly and easily. And it's like having multiple firearms in one, basically.
Okay, that's interesting. So you're saying it's not just one specific rifle, but a system, like a whole platform.
Yeah, exactly. And that makes it super adaptable. Think about it from like a soldier's perspective, okay? You might need a longer barrel if you're taking shots at a distance, but then if you need to go into close quarters combat, you need a shorter barrel.
Mhm.
And with the MCX, you can just adapt. You don't need to carry multiple weapons.
So you just loosen a few screws, swap out the barrel, and you're good to go. That sounds almost too easy.
Yeah, it's designed to be fast, efficient. The engineers at Sig Sauer really thought about how people would use this thing. And there's a bunch of other little things that enhance its performance and reliability, too. For example, they made the barrel with a tapered crown, which is really important for suppressors.
Suppressors, those are for reducing noise, right?
Yep.
Is that something that's used a lot with the MCX?
Oh, yeah, especially in military and law enforcement. Suppressors reduce noise and muzzle flash, too. So it's harder to tell where the shots are coming from. And given that the MCX is used by special forces, it makes sense that it would be designed to work well with suppressors.
That's interesting. So modularity, suppressors. What else makes the MCX so popular?
Well, another big thing is the short-stroke gas piston system. Now, this is different from the direct impingement system that you see in a lot of other rifles. With the MCX, they use a separate piston to cycle the action, and this helps keep hot gas and fouling out of the receiver.
Okay.
So it's a much cleaner, more reliable system.
I think I need a little more explanation on this. I mean, when I picture firing a rifle, I'm thinking lots of smoke, lots of grime.
Right?
How does this piston system actually make things cleaner?
Well, okay, so in a direct impingement system, the hot gas from the cartridge when it's fired, it goes back into the receiver,
Mm-hmm.
and that pushes back the bolt, cycles the action. But that can cause carbon and residue to build up, and that can jam the gun up and make it harder to clean. With the MCX's short stroke piston, you have this separate piston, and it only gets pushed a short distance by the gas.
Okay.
So that piston, it hits the bolt carrier,
Right.
cycles the action, but you don't have all that hot gas going into the receiver.
I see.
It's a little more complex mechanically, yeah.
Right.
But it means you have a cooler, cleaner, and ultimately more reliable rifle, especially if you're firing a lot of rounds.
So cleaner, cooler, more reliable. I'm starting to see why this is becoming so popular. Now, earlier you mentioned variants. What does that actually mean when we're talking about the MCX?
Well, because the MCX is so modular, Sig Sauer offers a bunch of different configurations, to meet different needs.
Right.
These variants have different barrel lengths, handguards, stock options, all sorts of things.
Okay, so it's not a one-size-fits-all.
Nope.
Can you give me some examples? What are some of the more popular ones?
Sure. Some of the well-known ones are the MCX Virtus Patrol. That's kind of the standard setup. And then there's the MCX SBR that's designed for close quarters combat. It has a shorter barrel. And then you've got the MCX Rattler, which is super compact.
The Rattler. That one sounds interesting. What's special about that one?
Well, the Rattler is designed to be really small, easy to hide. It has a barrel that can be as short as 5.5 inches.
Wow, that's tiny for a rifle. Who uses something like that?
Mostly it's for personal defense and specialized military operations. Situations where being small and quiet is really important. Even USOCOM, the United States Special Operations Command, they chose the Rattler for their personal defense weapon contract.
Oh, wow.
That says a lot about its capabilities.
So you've got the standard patrol, the SBR for close quarters, and then the Rattler for even closer situations. It's really like the Swiss Army knife of firearms that we were talking about before.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And we haven't even gotten to the MCX Spear yet. That one's really interesting. It's a big step forward in terms of firepower.
Okay, you have to tell me more about this spear. What makes it so special?
Well, the Spear, it was designed for the U.S. Army to be their next generation squad weapon. And it uses a brand new cartridge. It's called the 6.8 by 51 millimeter SIG Fury. This is a lot more powerful than the standard 5.56 NATO round that most rifles use.
Wow, a whole new cartridge. That's a big deal. Why would they develop a whole new type of ammunition?
Well, the Army wanted a weapon that could do better than the 5.56 at long range. And they also wanted something that could penetrate modern body armor.
Right.
So the 6.8 Fury cartridge with its unique hybrid case design was their answer.
More power, longer range, better penetration. It sounds like the Spear is in a whole different category compared to the other MCX variants.
It is. And the Army ended up choosing the Spear. They gave it the designation XM7. It's a big advancement in firearms technology. A glimpse into what the future of military weapons might look like.
XM7, officially part of the U.S. Army arsenal.
Oh.
That's pretty amazing. So we've got this incredibly adaptable platform in the MCX. You've got variants for everything from the standard patrol to the ultra-compact Rattler to this super powerful Spear. It's clear that the MCX is changing things up in the world of firearms.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not just about the individual variants themselves, it's what the MCX represents. It shows this shift towards making firearms more modular, more adaptable, and easier for people to use.
This has all been really fascinating. I'm learning so much. But let's take a step back for a second before we go too deep into all the technical stuff. We should acknowledge that firearms are a pretty sensitive topic.
You're absolutely right. We're focused on the technical side of the MCX today, but it's important to remember that firearms are powerful tools. You have to treat them with respect.
Exactly. And that's something we should always keep in mind no matter what firearm we're talking about.
Yeah.
But back to the MCX. We've covered a lot of ground. The modular design, the gas piston system, all the different variants, even the super powerful Spear. What are some examples of the MCX actually being used out in the real world?
Well, the MCX has seen action in a lot of different places around the world. One example that comes to mind is how it's being used by the Ukrainian armed forces, in the current conflict there.
So it's proven itself in actual combat.
Oh, yeah. The reports from the field are really positive. People say it's performed well, even in really difficult conditions. That just shows how reliable and durable it is.
You were saying earlier that Special Forces units are using the MCX. Any specific examples?
Well, besides USOCOM picking the Rattler for their personal defense weapon contract, they also chose a version of the MCX with a suppressor for their suppressed upper receiver group contract. It's called the SURG contract. They needed a weapon that was quiet, adaptable, and super reliable, and the MCX was perfect for that.
So if stealth and accuracy are the most important things, the MCX is the weapon to choose.
Seems like it. It's accurate, modular, and works great with suppressors. That makes it ideal for those specialized units.
It's amazing how much engineering and technology goes into these modern firearms. It's a long way from the muskets and rifles they used to use.
It really is. The MCX is a great example of how far firearms technology has come.
So we've talked about its features, the different variants, how the military and special forces use it. But what does it all mean? Where is this all going? What does the MCX tell us about the future of firearms?
I think the MCX shows us what's coming next. It's all about modularity, adaptability, making firearms easy to use. These are trends we're going to see more and more in the future.
So you think we'll see more firearms with this modular design?
Yeah, very likely. Being able to customize a firearm for specific needs for different missions, that's a huge advantage. I think in the future, firearms will be less about set designs and more about adaptable platforms that you can change to meet new challenges.
That's really interesting. So in a way, the MCX is not just a rifle. It's giving us a preview of what firearms might look like in the years to come.
Exactly. It's pushing the boundaries, setting a new standard for the industry.
I've got to admit, I was a little skeptical at first. Firearms aren't really my thing, but the SIG-MCX has really impressed me. It's an incredible piece of engineering.
Yeah, it is. And it shows you that even in areas that seem unfamiliar, there's always something new to learn, something to appreciate.
Very well said.
Yeah.
I'm definitely walking away from this with a new appreciation for how complex and clever modern firearms are. Before we wrap up, is there anything else about the MCX that you think people should know?
I think the main thing is that the MCX isn't just a fancy rifle. It represents a whole new way of thinking about designing firearms. It's all about modularity, adaptability, letting the user customize it. And these are things that are going to have a big influence on how firearms are made in the future.
That's a great point to end on. So everyone listening, if you're interested in the future of firearms, The SIG-MCX is definitely something to keep an eye on. It really is amazing.
It is, right.
So we've talked about all the tech stuff, the different models. We talked about how it's used by the military, special forces. But where does this all go from here? What does the MCX tell us about what firearms are going to be like in the future?
I think the MCX is like a sign of things to come. The focus on making it adaptable, easy to use, modular. We're probably going to see more of that in the future.
So you think we're going to see more firearms with this kind of modular design?
Yeah, I think it's very likely the ability to customize a gun to fit exactly what you need it for different missions. That's a huge advantage. We might even see a future where, guns aren't so much about having a fixed design. They're more like adaptable platforms that you can modify so you can meet any challenge that comes up.
Wow, that's a fascinating thought. So in a way, the MCX is not just a rifle. It's like a sneak peek into what firearms might be like down the road.
Exactly. It's pushing the boundaries and setting a new standard for everyone else.
You know what? I have to admit, I was a little skeptical at first. Firearms aren't really my area of expertise,
I get it.
but the SIG MCX has really impressed me. It's a seriously impressive piece of engineering.
It is, isn't it? And it just goes to show, even in areas that you might not be familiar with, there's always something cool to discover.
That's a great way to put it. I'm definitely walking away from this with a whole new appreciation for firearms, how complex they are, how clever the design is. Before we wrap up, is there anything else you think our listeners should know about the MCX?
I think the biggest takeaway is that the MCX isn't just, a cool looking gun. It really represents a change in how we think about designing firearms. Modularity, adaptability, user customization, those are all huge.
Yeah.
And I think they're going to shape the future of firearms for years to come.
That's a great point. So to everyone listening, if you're interested in the future of firearms, definitely keep an eye on the SIG MCX. This has been a really eye-opening deep dive into the world of the SIG MCX.
Yeah, it's been great talking about it.
It has, and I think our listeners will enjoy it too. But before we sign off, I want to leave everyone with a thought. We've seen how adaptable the MCX is, how it's used by special forces. So think about this. How might firearms evolve in the future? To meet the demands of a world that's constantly changing, it's definitely something to think about, especially as technology keeps advancing so quickly.
That's all for our deep dive on the SIG-MCX. Don't forget to check out the show notes. We've got more information there, including links to the Wikipedia article we used. Until next time, everyone, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.
It has been fun.
All right, well, that's it for a deep dive into the SIG-MCX. Be sure to check out the show notes for more information about this really fascinating firearm. We'll have links to the Wikipedia article we use and all that good stuff. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.